Now, we were never actually going to build a complete bike in a half-hour show, so I hope you'll excuse us by cheating slightly. We've now put the bike up on blocks, which means it's a bit easier to get to the front end to put the forks and front wheel in. Patrick, if you want to pass me the bottom yoke now, we can start assembling the steering head. This simply slides up into the steering head bearings in the frame there. That's the bottom steering head bearing. As that goes through, if you just support that, there's a top bearing. And again, I've cheated slightly by pre-greasing these. And that adjuster nut now spins down over the top. Now this, of course, is the major structural part of the steering on the bike. So this does need to be set up quite carefully. Ideally, if you just let go of that now, that should flop from one side to the other. So if I slacken that off slightly, and that's a little bit better. The problem with that is, of course, if it's too sloppy, the front end will waggle about. So that feels more or less okay for now. But what I'm going to do is assemble the whole thing and then we'll check the adjustment later on when it's all in one piece. Right, next let's just try popping the fork legs in. If you want to slide that one in up through that bottom yoke there, and with a couple of pinch bolts which will hold it in place. If I just hold that steady. In fact, I'll pop this one in while you're doing that. The fork legs themselves are, of course, handed. In other words, one has to go in the left and one has to go in the right, because it's slightly different at the bottom. And there we go. Is that sliding through okay there?
No, it's a bit...
right, putting up a bit of a struggle.
Yes, just a little screwdriver and we can sort this out.
And these are actually clamped up in the bottom yoke with a slot at the back there. So yeah, if you just pop that slot open with a screwdriver, gently, and then that should... That's it, that's going in now, isn't it? That's slackened off, isn't it? Yep. Okay. Is that going in there? Right. Bit of a squeeze, is that one?
It's probably the powder coating.
It could be, yeah. You're always going to get problems like this when you're building something that's had all these lovely finishes put on, but it's always worth the struggle. Is that going? No. Right, if you just pop those two bolts out, and I'll pop a screwdriver into that slot and just open it out slightly. There we go. If I do that, is that any better? There we go.
That's it.
That, now she's going. Yeah, it's just getting it started, wasn't it? Now, at this point, we don't know exactly what height the fork legs need to be. If you slide that up a little bit higher, what I'd like to do is fit the top yoke next, and then we can see roughly whereabouts it is. So the top yoke, we've actually put the handlebars on already. I'd usually put those on a little bit later, but this might just save us a few minutes. That pops over the top there, and if we're lucky, that'll just tap down into place. And might just need the assistance. No, that's gone in. I thought we might have had to tap that with a rubber hammer. There we go, that's fine. Now you can see the fork legs are actually a little bit low. So that wants to come up in the yokes until the top nut just sits above there.